Rick Harrison looks like a man who figured life out. Millions of fans, a legendary TV show, and a business that turned a small Las Vegas pawn shop into a global brand. On the surface, it's the perfect success story. But behind the cameras, behind the smiles, and far away from the deals we see on TV, Rick's life has been anything but easy. Family conflicts, quiet legal battles, financial pressure, and a loss so devastating it reshaped everything he believed about success. And while most people think they know Rick Harrison's story, the truth is, the hardest chapters were never filmed. Long before fame ever found him, Rick Harrison's life was shaped by things most people never saw. His childhood wasn't loud or glamorous. It was quiet, fragile, and marked by loss. One of his siblings passed away at a young age, and that kind of tragedy leaves a permanent mark on any family. But for Rick, things got even harder not long after. When he was still a kid, Rick began dealing with serious health issues that kept him confined to his bed for long stretches of time. While other kids were outside living normal lives, he was stuck indoors, isolated, and searching for something to occupy his mind. That isolation could have broken him. Instead, it did the opposite. With nothing but time, Rick turned to books. History, strategy, old stories about power, wars, and deals made centuries ago. He didn't just read for fun. He studied how people thought, how they negotiated, and how knowledge itself could be a weapon. Without realizing it, Rick was training his mind for the exact role that would later make him famous. But at the time, none of that mattered. He wasn't thinking about success or television. He was just a kid trying to get through the day. And as he grew older, that quiet, bookish world collided hard with reality, forcing him to make decisions that would change his life fast. And that's where things took a risky turn. As Rick got older, the real world hit fast, and it didn't wait for him to be ready. School quickly lost its grip on him, and before long, he walked away entirely. Instead of classrooms and teachers, Rick found himself pulled into hustles that promised quick money and instant freedom. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and at that stage in his life, survival mattered more than rules. Then came a moment that forced him to grow up overnight. While still a teenager, Rick found out he was going to be a father. Most people his age would have panicked or disappeared, but Rick didn't run. He stepped up, even as his personal life became increasingly unstable. A heartbreaking loss followed, testing him and his partner in ways few young couples are prepared for. They eventually married, trying to build something solid out of chaos. Children came, responsibilities stacked up, and pressure mounted fast. But the relationship didn't hold. Not long after welcoming their second child, the marriage quietly fell apart, leaving Rick juggling fatherhood, financial stress, and an uncertain future. Still, he kept moving forward. Another relationship followed, and once again, Rick tried to rebuild. At this point, his life was already a cycle of risk, responsibility, and resilience. And while it looked messy from the outside, every mistake was pushing him toward the one place where all that pressure would finally find a purpose. Because just as his personal life was unraveling, an opportunity was forming that would change everything. By the time Rick landed in Las Vegas, failure was already familiar. His family had been forced to start over after a business collapse, and money was tight. But Vegas had a way of rewarding people who understood risk, and Rick was learning fast. While others chased luck, he chased knowledge, and that mindset would soon pay off. When his father opened a small coin and second-hand shop, Rick became the quiet engine behind it. His deep understanding of history gave every item a story, and in a place like Vegas, stories sell. Customers weren't just buying objects, they were buying credibility. Rick's ability to explain where things came from and why they mattered gave the shop an edge most competitors didn't have. But turning that shop into a full pawn operation wasn't easy. City laws made pawn licenses extremely rare, and for years, Rick and his father were stuck waiting. They worked nights, took risks, and survived on thin margins, all while watching opportunities pass them by. It was frustrating, but Rick stayed patient. Then, finally, the door cracked open. After years of delays and legal hurdles, they secured the license they'd been chasing. The gold and silver pawn shop was born, and almost immediately, business began to grow. Loans increased, rare items rolled in, and the shop started gaining a reputation across the city. Rick had built something real at last. But just as the shop was finding its rhythm, attention from the outside world arrived, bringing opportunity, exposure, and consequences no one could have predicted. And that's when everything went public. When the cameras finally showed up, no one expected what would happen next. What started as a simple idea quickly turned into a cultural phenomenon. Almost overnight, the gold and silver pawn shop wasn't just a local business anymore, it was a global attraction. Pawn stars exploded, and Rick Harrison became a familiar face in homes around the world. The fame brought money, influence, and endless opportunities. Book deals, TV appearances, endorsements, it all came fast. But while the show made everything look fun and effortless, real life was moving in a very different direction behind the scenes. Long hours, constant pressure, and public scrutiny began to strain Rick's personal relationships. Marriages quietly ended while the spotlight stayed bright. Moments that would normally stay private were now happening under the weight of celebrity. And even as the show continued to climb the ratings, Rick's personal life was becoming more complicated and less stable. Still, the momentum didn't slow. Spin-offs followed, guest appearances stacked up, and the brand kept growing. To fans, it looked like Rick was winning at every level. But fame has a way of amplifying problems instead of fixing them. Because just as Rick was riding the peak of his success, life delivered a reminder that no amount of popularity can shield you from loss. And what happened next would hit closer to home than anyone expected. The first blow came when Rick lost his father. To fans, he was the old man, sharp, stubborn, and unforgettable. To Rick, he was more than a TV character. He was the foundation of the family and the business. His passing left a massive emotional void, but it also placed full responsibility squarely on Rick's shoulders. The shop, the brand, and the family legacy were now his alone to carry. Not long after, the world shifted again. When the pandemic hit, Vegas slowed to a crawl. Tourism vanished, foot traffic disappeared, and the business everyone assumed would thrive in hard times suddenly struggled. Pawn shops weren't immune after all. Rick was forced to partially shut down operations, rethink how loans worked, and make tough decisions just to keep things afloat. Behind the scenes, the numbers told a brutal story. Revenue dropped sharply, expectations collapsed, and the pressure kept building. At the same time, another marriage quietly came to an end, adding personal stress to an already overwhelming situation. Publicly, Rick stayed composed. Privately, everything felt uncertain. Still, he pushed forward. He adjusted policies, helped customers when he could, and tried to ride out the storm. But while he was focused on survival, something far more explosive was brewing. This time, from inside his own family. And when it surfaced, it stunned even his most loyal fans. Not all battles happen in public, but this one couldn't stay hidden. Reports began circulating that Rick was facing a serious legal dispute involving someone no one expected: his own mother. According to court filings, claims were made over family assets and control of the pawn shop empire Rick had spent decades building. Almost instantly, fans were split. The accusations painted a harsh picture, suggesting disagreements over contracts, ownership, and money that dated back years. Some reports claimed paperwork was signed under questionable circumstances, while others questioned whether full financial transparency was ever given. It was messy, emotional, and deeply personal. And for many viewers who believed Rick was fiercely loyal to family, the situation was hard to process. Rick didn't stay silent. He publicly denied the allegations, stating that the claims were untrue and insisting the situation was being influenced by outside forces. From his perspective, this wasn't betrayal, it was a painful misunderstanding spiraling out of control. Still, the damage was already done. Headlines spread fast, and speculation online grew even faster. What made it worse was the timing. With his father gone and the business still recovering, this dispute cut straight to the core of everything Rick stood for. The same family-first image that helped build his reputation was now being questioned in real time. And while this conflict played out in court documents and news reports, Rick was about to face a loss far more devastating than any lawsuit, one no amount of money or fame could soften. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get any heavier, tragedy struck in the most personal way possible. In early 2024, reports confirmed that Rick had lost his son, Adam. He wasn't part of the show, and most fans barely knew his name. But to Rick, this was a loss that cut deeper than anything he'd faced before. Details that surfaced later suggested Adam's passing was ruled accidental, with authorities pointing to substance-related complications. Out of respect, Rick kept his words brief and heartfelt. He shared a simple message online, saying his son would always be in his heart. No interviews. No explanations. Just grief. The reaction was immediate. Fans, friends, and public figures flooded social media with condolences. For once, the negotiations stopped, the cameras faded, and the business didn't matter. This wasn't a storyline, it was real life, unfolding in the harshest way. Those close to Rick said the loss changed him. The man known for control, logic, and sharp deals was suddenly forced to face something he couldn't fix or negotiate away. It became a turning point, reshaping how he viewed success, time, and what truly matters. And after everything he'd been through, Rick made a quiet shift. One that signaled the end of an era and the beginning of something very different. After everything he endured, Rick didn't walk away from the spotlight, but he didn't chase it either. Instead, he quietly stepped back. He no longer runs the pawn shop day to day, choosing to let others handle the grind while he focuses on what matters most to him now. The pace slowed, and for the first time in decades, life wasn't only about the next deal. He still appears on television, traveling with Pawn Stars Do America, but the energy feels different. Less about proving something, more about preserving what's left. Behind the scenes, Rick has talked about enjoying time with his family and grandchildren, something he admits he sacrificed too often during his rise. There's also been talk, just talk about politics. Rumors have circulated about possible runs for office, but nothing concrete has materialized. For now, it seems more like an idea than a mission. Recognition has continued to come his way, including honorary titles and public praise, but none of it appears to drive him the way it once did. Today, Rick Harrison exists in a strange space. Still famous. Still successful. But clearly changed. The man who built an empire by understanding value now seems focused on something harder to measure. Because when you strip away the money, the cameras, and the reputation, one question lingers. Was it all worth it? Rick Harrison's story isn't just about a pawn shop or a TV show, it's about what success really costs. From a childhood shaped by loss and illness, to fame that turned a family business into a global brand, Rick built a life most people only dream about. But along the way came sacrifices no highlight reel ever shows. Broken relationships, public disputes, and a loss so personal it changed him forever. To the world, Rick is still the sharp negotiator with the final say. But behind that familiar image is someone who's been forced to confront the limits of money, fame, and control. Some battles can't be negotiated. Some losses can't be undone. And some lessons only come when everything else is stripped away. Today, Rick seems less focused on chasing the next big win and more on protecting what time he has left. Maybe that's the real evolution. Understanding that not everything valuable can be bought, sold, or pawned. And for those watching from the outside, his story leaves one lasting thought. Sometimes the biggest deal of your life isn't the one you make. It's the one you walk away from.